7 months ago, I went back to my home state after 9 years of traveling, but haven't actually seen my family in about 11. This would be the first time going back to the state after 6 years. So it's fair to say that it was a culture shock within my own culture. I had to take a pause on my travel, honestly, because I hit a financial wall. I needed to go home and I needed to make money, but it was also the perfect opportunity to see my family I haven't seen in years. I was gonna make a whole video, and I might still make this video about the differences between traveling and living in the States. I'm gonna keep this video quick, and I don't want it to be too negative. There were a lot of differences going back to the States, and I remember the first couple of months I judged absolutely everything. I didn't have a good time. I didn't feel like I fit in, but I never felt like I really fit in and the Western culture. I cried my eyes out the first few days. I was depressed, I was sad, but I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and I did what I needed to do. There are some differences or some things that I noticed going back to the States. People seemed overly negative, on edge, tense. I got treated like crap working in customer service or the service industry. People's diets were abysmal, and just the over materialism and the over consumption of it all. I worked in a shop where we literally threw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of packets of food away, and it was actually illegal to give it to the homeless. There was a lot of things that I can complain about. The biggest one is the cost of living is just too freaking high. I worked two jobs at the end, and it still took me 6 months just to save a little over $3,000, and I wasn't even paying rent, but all my other expenses. I was shocked by the cost of living. That was like the biggest culture shock. The other thing that I found it strange is that everyone thinks it's really, really unsafe to travel overseas, and there are dangers, but I felt less safe working in the job I was working in the neighborhood that I was living in. And this to me didn't seem like a bad neighborhood by any means, but I think it was a working class neighborhood. The amount of times that my life was threatened to get beat up, threatened for someone to pow me, can't say the word, on YouTube. People shoplifted multiple times a day for things that you can tell they weren't using just to feed their children. I felt like I needed a chaperone just to walk home, and I only lived down the street. I'm used to living in towns where people leave their doors open, unlocked, where shop owners go home for lunch and doesn't bother to close their shop, and feel completely and utterly safe. However, I'm glad I went home. It challenged my ego because I was so used to being that girl who travels and lives abroad, and going home not knowing when I would be able to go back. It definitely challenged my identity that I had to let go, and had to even come to an understanding that maybe I have to let it go for a longer period of time if need be. It really did challenge me. But the biggest and best part about going home by far was my family. I love my family. And I'm not the type of person that ever needed to be that close when it comes to distance or physical closeness to my family. I'm not the type of person that calls people every day and email people every day. That's just never been my personality or in my character. I've tried to change it. It's always been my New Year's resolution, but I'm just not that person. But it doesn't mean I don't love my family. And I'm always the person that's going to pick up if someone calls, whether you're my family or a friend. So, getting to see my family and all of my nieces and nephews and cousins that were babies when I left, all grown up, seeing family members that I've never met, being an auntie to my nieces and my nephews, going on camping trips with my family, and just hanging out with the community of Detroit, young artists and entrepreneurs, seeing my brother perform for the first time in a leading role on stage. It was amazing. There's a lot of issues I have with the West. Reason why I prefer not to live there. It doesn't mean I hate my country, and it doesn't mean I hate my family. I love my family. I think the next time I go back home, I want to be more prepared. I think that it kind of fucked with my mental state having to go back home almost as in a financial emergency. I think it really fucked up with my emotional state having to work a job that I don't actually think is fit for humankind. But I do want to see my family more often, and I do want to visit the States more often because I love them and I want to see my nieces and nephews grow up. But if you want to see a video where I break down in detail the differences between living abroad and living in the States and why I choose at the moment in my life, this point in period of time, to live overseas, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know, even though you love your family, why you still choose to travel and live abroad. Thank you. From Live, Love, Life, and Travel. What is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life is to